Alright, the engine saga continues. I'm actually here out the day before I'm supposed to put the engine in. And the idea was to get the engine for this truck the day before. I'd get it all ready to go in, so all I had to do was come in tomorrow morning and get started. But I've just been informed by the salvage yard, at least they called me, 1 hour before I told them it was time that they bring me that engine, or else that their truck broke down and I'm not going to have an engine today. And they've got problems because of it, and I'm just one of their problems, and blah blah blah. So it looks like I'm going to have a pretty late day tomorrow. I'm not happy about that at all. Anyway, so we'll be back tomorrow to talk more about this Dodge engine from hell. Maybe we should just change the name. Engine just got here. Was supposed to be here yesterday. In fact, I sat here for 4 hours waiting for it, only to find out that the truck that was bringing it broke down. And I wasn't going to get it yesterday. So I drove back home. And I'd asked yesterday that I have it first thing in the morning. It's now almost 2 o'clock, and it just got here. Check it out. They say third time's a charm, and this one looks more intact than any one I've seen so far. Didn't even bend anything back there. They did a good job of getting this one out. Hey, look, I got a spare tranny dipstick and everything. A lot of stuff still attached to this one. That's okay. And it does spin. Without locking up. And that noise you hear is a flex plate coming in contact with this guy. Don't worry about that. So I'm going to get to tearing all this stuff off of this and getting this thing ready to go on in. Because it's time. It's past due. Wish me luck. It promises to be a late night. And with that in mind, know that I'm probably not going to be doing a whole lot of filming with this. However, during my wait yesterday, I shot a nice video for you on an engine dissection that maybe you might want to check out. So I'm always thinking of you no matter what. But today I got to think of Eric the Car Guy. So we may do little signposts along the way like we have been. But for the most part, I'm going to open up a can of kick butt and get this done. Because it's cold. There's a lot of snow outside. I don't want to be here. Because I want to move on to bigger and better things. Don't you? We have now stripped everything off of the engine and switched over the water pump, took the engine mounts off, replaced anything that was broken, moved over the stuff that was for the old engine onto the new one. I'm going to switch over the oil filter after I get the engine in the car and just do a proper oil change while it's in there. But this is what we've got. I actually ended up switching over this water pump because that one was in just as bad a shape, and while I was at it I did all these pulleys because the new ones didn't want to move so well. They even switched over these bolts on the exhaust, mainly because these have retainers on them and the other ones didn't. So they'll at least give me an advantage when I go to run those down. Put this dipstick in because the other one was kind of bent and kind of weird. Put this plate on. Got that all ready to go. Swapped out the spark plugs, put some transmission fluid in each one of the cylinders and spun the engine over several times. And thankfully this one wasn't full of ice, even though they also pressure washed it, but they didn't take the fuel rail off this time. Good job. So, and the best part is I pulled it off the truck like this, and it seems to be at an angle that I like, so I'm just going to leave it like this. Then over on the truck, we cleaned out the bell housing of any transmission fluid that came out along with the torque converter when I had to pull that out last time. I've got all the wires and everything up out of the way so that when I drop this engine down in here, hopefully I won't have any issues. That would be great. I would love for this to go smoothly from this point on. That would be awesome. Oh, and my boards that I've got already. Now a lot of you have mentioned, you said, Eric, there's some stuff at Home Depot that you can put on that ridge and all that kind of stuff. You know what? It's just not feasible. The reason why this truck is parked where it is because of this guy right here. Now, normally what I would do is I'd move this truck all the way back to where this Honda is. And I wouldn't have any issues with any humps or anything like that. But this thing has thrown a rod. So after I get done with this engine, here we are with this one. So the fun never stops at Eric the Car Guy's garage. But that's okay, because, you know, the hits just keep on coming. Ever wonder what it was like to be an engine going into a truck? Now you know. Okay, here we are, back where we was. Watching our drop light fall down to the floor. Got my AC up out of the way. Don't seem to have any issues there. Now it's just a matter of getting it down in there. Hey, guess what? I got my 2 bolts in. Now I just got to put the other bell housing bolts in. And in a lot of ways, I consider the worst over. Now, we're going to put all this stuff back together and cross our fingers and hope it runs. If it does, life is good. If not, I think Eric the Car Guy is going to retire. You have days like this. I mean, those of you out there thinking about being a technician, that kind of thing, I'm just going to tell you, it's stressful. It can be very stressful because something maybe you've done 1,000 times before. You haven't done it on this car yet. And sometimes when you open the hood, you're just not sure what's going to happen from that point on. It could be a month later before you finally get it done. So keep your fingers crossed that when I come back, I've got most of this junk put back together and this thing's ready to run. That would be great. Make Eric the Car Guy very happy. See you in a bit. Thanks for sticking around. It's really been nice having you for company. As you can see, my hair is coming undone. I'll have to call my hairdresser about that. Anyway, things are moving along nicely. We have the engine's pretty much in. A lot of the electrical connections are reestablished and all that kind of stuff. In fact, I'm in the process of putting on the accessories, and I was about to put an oil filter on when I remembered something that I wanted to show you in the oil change video, especially with an engine that you just swapped out. You can give it every advantage by filling up the oil filter before you install it. This way, when you start the engine, it won't be bone dry getting into all those bearings and everything in there. It's looking pretty good. Like I said, I'm down to accessories and hooking all that stuff up, putting the dry belt on, putting the fan on, and just about to do the oil filter. Moving right along. It's not as late as I thought, but started right around 2. It's about 9. But guess what? Yep, you guessed it. It's back in. All its parts are back together, for the most part, aside from the trimmings. But it's all in there. And guess what I'm about to do? Yep, you're exactly right. And I have not attempted to start it up to this point. So we're just going to fire it up and see what happens. Rather than put you inside with me, why don't you just sit here and watch that there engine. Now, I'm just going to prime the fuel pump a couple of times. And then look, see if there's any leaks on the fuel rail or any place else that I can see. So far, no. Well, let's give it a shot. Awesome. No leaks. A lot of smoke. I'm about to shut it down because of that. Life is good. Be back in a minute. All right, now we're to a place where we're bleeding the cooling system out. And for this one, we've got this little plug right there that you can take out while you're filling the system. And then, since it has an expansion tank, which is what this is, you don't need your spill-free funnel. You can just basically use the expansion tank like the spill-free funnel. But it sounds actually pretty darn good. So I'm going to keep bleeding it out here and, well, give it the old heave-ho. Now, what have we learned here? Definitely try to spin the engine over before you install it in a vehicle. Just good little thing to do. I ended up squirting a little bit of transmission fluid down in each one of these holes because I replaced the plugs on this, because to replace the plugs on this is kind of difficult with it in the truck. So I had the plugs out anyway, so it wasn't that big a deal to do that. Other than that, it was a pretty straightforward operation, aside from the little hiccups there. And it's my sincerest hope that I'm able to work out something with the salvage yard, because I came out here for 4 hours yesterday and sat and waited and didn't get an engine. And I sat here today from 8:30 to 2 o'clock. And they told me it would show up at 4, so I'm happy to see it 2 hours early, so I know they made some kind of effort. But I will say this, if you want to be an auto mechanic and you want to do this for a living and you want to do this professionally, be prepared for this kind of thing. I've seen people actually leave the dealership in an ambulance, and a lot of it was stress related. There's a lot of stress doing this for a living. That's something you got to watch out for. You keep your cool, keep calm, realize that this is a machine. I mean, you can't change people, but you can change machines. You can always alter the outcome there. And though they may frustrate you, just know that there's always a solution. Always a solution with machines. Personally, I like to deal with machines because in a lot of ways they're easier to deal with than people, but yeah, that's just my opinion. But now, I'm gonna button this thing up, and then I gotta deal with this. Check this out. That's how much fell since I showed up today. But at least it's not really coming down all that much anymore. So I gotta clean that thing off and head on home. After a big job like this, it's a real good idea to put all your tools away. That way you know if you got them all, because you never know when you're working, you might have left something up under the hood. Personally, I prefer brightly colored tools to help me with this, because under the hood is obviously dark, so if you get a set of like black screwdrivers and things, you may lose them. So good idea to put away your tools after a huge job like this. That way you know you got everything. And then if you don't, you can look before the thing drives down the road and a wrench falls out and scares the heck out of the person driving it. You don't want that. I'm Eric the Car Guy. You can always visit me at EricTheCarGuy.com. Find me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. Or we got weekly podcasts, or somewhat weekly podcasts, or we're trying for a weekly podcast on Sundays at noon. And I'm just going to remind you to be safe, have fun, and of course, stay dirty. See ya. Wait, I just thought of a better one. Don't get mad, get dirty. I like that.